was worth the price of admission alone.
Turning to the Baseball Podcast. News, views, and opinions through Kiwi eyes.
They try to turn it, and they do turn it. On to first, a double play. Oh, my goodness.
Good everyone, welcome to another edition of the Turning To podcast with the Baseball New Zealand media team. Ian McDonald, Dale Budge, Austin McMurchie, talking a whole range of different baseball topics today. We're going to start with spring training and one of the Auckland Tuatara stars. We touched on it last week. Nick Tanielu enjoying a very good spring training. And we got an update a week ago. How's he going last week?
He's continued to do really well. He has 13 at-bats now in spring training, so a pretty good sample size for spring training standards. And he's batting .385, almost .400. So, can't do much better in the batting average department. Still only that one home run, which he hit in the first game. But 6 RBI, so he has continued to produce runs and a really good on base plus slugging, which is 1.313, which is really solid. So he seems to be doing everything he can to make the team. It really just comes down to players in front of him in his position, and that's kind of been his struggle his entire career. So
yeah, we talked about it last week. Jose Altuve obviously at second base, Alex Bregman at third, sort of blocking the way. But he tore up AAA last year, best part of 300 on the season. He's now a couple of years removed from an ACL injury, healthy and playing well. What chance, Ian, you think he might break training camp with the Major League team in a couple of weeks' time?
I think his versatility is going to be the key. He can play second base, third base, or can also play shortstop at a pinch, and could probably play first base too. And with the fact that the Astros have lost Mr. Versatility, Marwin Gonzalez, this year, there could be a spot there for somebody who can play in 2, 3, possibly even 4 of those infield positions. So I think there's a good chance he could break camp with the Astros.
If worst case scenario he doesn't make the Major League team from the get-go and he goes back to AAA, does he become trade bait potentially for the Astros? We've talked about it, other Major League clubs, surely he'd be a Major League player.
I know definitely the Blue Jays would love to have him at second base with Devin Travis going down. So there's definitely a lot of places that would love to have him. It's just whether the Astros are willing to let him go, seeing as how versatile he is, and late in the season, that sort of thing is always quite useful. So it's really kind of what they need now, and if there's anyone they want to get, he would definitely be a valuable piece in any trade.
We'll watch with bated breath over the next couple of weeks. We'll give you another update in 7 days when we hopefully get more of an idea of where Nick's going to be playing. We're obviously heading into autumn now, can you believe that? Into autumn here in New Zealand, so it is a bit of an Indian summer. We've still got some good weather for the next few weeks, which is great because the Baseball National Championships, the United Airlines New Zealand Club National Championships, get underway starting this week, Thursday, the under-16s in, out at, across a couple of different venues. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect to see from the under-16s. How many teams are competing and where are they being played?
Yeah, well, it's a record number of teams for an under-16 tournament. We've got 14 teams, as you say, playing across the 2 venues, which is a first for a United Airlines Club National Tournament. In any age grade, we've come very close with the under-13s in the last couple of years. But yeah, so 2 venues, Lloyd Elsmore Park in Pakuranga and War Memorial Park in Mount Roskill. I think you'll probably see the usual suspects featuring towards the top end of the tournament. Your Howard Pakarangas, your North Shores. We could see some interesting teams coming up from outside of Auckland with the Hutt Valley Hornets, who won the under-13 tournament last year, the Ripken tournament. So they could be challenging for higher honours. The Nelson Heat team is largely the same as what they had last year, and the under-16 tournament was a very young side last year, so they could feature a little higher than they have done in previous years. So it's going to be an exciting tournament coming right down to this year with a 6-team playoff structure, and so 6 out of 14. And come Sunday, it's going to be an exciting time when we get to the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, so we look forward to that getting underway Thursday, running right the way through till Sunday, and that sort of kicks off, I guess, the next month or so of the United Airlines National Club Championship. So men's after that, and then we get into under-13s and under-19s is the college one as well, that there's somewhere in the middle there. So we'll cover all of that off in detail in future weeks, and we look forward to maybe recording with Dan Tan, national coach, on the under-16, preview the under-16 tournament with him. Let's talk a little bit about Bryce Harper, because that was the big talking point last week, and we've now seen some movement. A little bit surprising. I think we'd all thought he'd maybe looking West Coast more so than East Coast. He signs a long-term deal with the Philadelphia Phillies, $330 million, 13-year deal. We'll start with Ian, because you thought he was going West Coast, and you had me convinced. I was with you. I was thinking it was going to end up being somewhere Dodgers, Giants. A little bit surprising that he's meant to deal with the Phillies.
Yeah, I am. As I said last week, it had dragged on for so long. I thought if he was going to go there, he would have signed by now. And yeah, quite a big surprise when it popped up on the old MLB feed the other day that he'd gone with Philly. But yeah, I mean, it seems a good fit for him. He's going to be playing against his old team, the Nats, and he even had a wee bit of faux pas in his presentations, press conference, when he said he was looking forward to bringing a championship back to DC instead of Philly. So, yeah, but so he's going to be wearing the number 3 for the Phillies, and because obviously he can't wear number 34.
Actually, he could have worn. It was his decision not to, which I think was a nice touch.
So this is the Roy Halladay situation. Roy Halladay, of course, the late Doc.
Yeah, his number was retired in Toronto, his 32, but when he went to the Phillies, he changed to 34, and that number had not been officially retired. But
so a nice touch from him to not want to use that and leave that for Halladay forever. Yeah. You weren't surprised?
No, I mean, I was dreading it as a Braves fan. I mean, we finally started to do well last year, and then the Mets and Phillies just go crazy this offseason. So yeah, I kind of saw it coming. I didn't want it to. I much would have preferred if he went to the Dodgers, but they really seemed hell-bent on getting him. They went all out this year, which, I mean, you got to do. Blue Jays took that shot a few years ago, almost worked out, so every team's got to try it, and I mean, of any guy you could get from a batting perspective, he's about as good as you can get.
I think the biggest surprise for me was the fact that it's a 13-year deal and there's no opt-out.
No. Yeah, that is strange, especially like we've seen this trend of, an opt-out after 3 years, 5 years. All the big free agents in recent times have had them. Nothing in the Harper contract. He's there for 13 years, and presumably unless they trade him.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I'm presuming there's some sort of no-trade clause in there. But yeah, I mean, Manny Machado got 10 years, 300 million, but Bryce Harper just had to beat it, didn't he? Or is it Scott Boras, his agent, that had to beat it?
Yeah, he is the super agent, as they say.
Well, one thing we're going to do across the next few weeks on the podcast is sort of break down Major League Baseball before we get into competition games and sort of preview each division by division. We thought we'd start giving this news with Bryce Harper committing to a team in the National League East, that we would start there. We'll look at the National League East and the American League East today. So starting with the Bryce Harper signing, how does that change the balance of power in your mind? Because he's not the only guy that the Phillies have signed.
For me,
picked up a fair few guys,
the big other one they picked up is they got an all-star catcher in JT Realmuto, and a fairly big trade with the Miami Marlins, who are just shipping out anyone who can actually play baseball at the moment.
Fire sale Miami, no way.
Yeah, no. They did, in credit, get a decent catching prospect back in this one, so that was nice for them. But yeah, the Phillies, they picked up an all-star catcher. They also got Andrew McCutchen, free agency. Getting older, but he still is a pretty good bat out there. They got Gene Segura to play shortstop now with, I'm assuming he wouldn't play shortstop with Trey Turner. The Nationals, Trey Turner's son. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that infield. But yeah, they've really gone out this year, as we were saying. They really swung for the fences, and this is kind of a make or break year this year to see if it's kind of going to work out.
So in that division, Ian, we've basically got the Phillies that are loaded up. The Braves were certainly on the rise and look like a team that's going to be, playoff quality. You've got the Mets have spent in the off-season as well. The Nationals without Bryce Harper, but a team that has been perennial post-season team in recent years. And then, of course, you've got the Miami Marlins who are just making up the numbers, selling off anyone that's any good. Where do you sort of see the balance of power between those other 4 teams?
I think it's going to be a real three-way competition for that division. Obviously, with the Phillies and the Mets that have spent big. Robinson Cano's gone back to New York, but with the other team, the Mets, and also picking up Diaz, the closer.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So that is a big one, and they've also got Familia in their side.
And Wilson Ramos. They also
and Wilson Ramos,
catcher,
a good pickup as catcher. So yeah, they're going to perform well, and as you mentioned, the Braves are a young side with the likes of Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman's still young.
Yeah, very much in his prime.
Austin, you can probably talk a wee bit more about the Braves than I can, but I did get to see them in Arizona last year when I was there, and they're a good outfit. They're a very good outfit. hard running in the field, hard running on the bases, and they've got lots of power as well.
Their main and only real acquisition this offseason was Josh Donaldson to play third base, which was an area of weakness. So it really comes down to, I think, if he can stay healthy, as it's been an issue with him for the past few years. Because if he can stay healthy, that infield's one of the best in the league. But again, they really don't have a backup third baseman. Maybe Johan Camargo, but he's more of a utility guy. Another big issue for the Braves is their pitching staff is very young. So it's like they brought up Soroka last year and Tuki Toussaint, so great pitchers, but Soroka couldn't stay healthy. He looked great in his limited appearances. Tuki Toussaint, again, it was his first year. He pitched in the postseason, has his fourth ever start, which is a lot of pressure to put on a guy. So yeah, it really comes down to that back half of the pitching staff, which is going to be made up of effectively rookies, how well they can handle the pressure, how well they can go through, because in the field they're pretty solid now.
All right, let's give our prediction then. Who have you got winning the National League East?
I'm just going to make one further point on the Mets. We've mentioned all their acquisitions, but we've not mentioned their fantastic pitching staff.
Yeah.
Jacob DeGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler. They had three pretty handy starters, and DeGrom won the Cy Young last year.
Yep.
He had probably the worst record you've ever seen for a Cy Young winner.
In terms of wins and losses.
In terms of wins and losses. Great ERA.
But got no run support.
But got no run support. And this year he's going to get a lot more run support, as are Syndergaard and Wheeler. And
in terms of pitching staffs, though, that we didn't talk about, the Nationals also did improve their pitching staff quite a lot with Patrick Corbin and Anibal Sanchez. Those are two pretty big pickups to already complement Strasburg and Scherzer.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so give us a winner. Who have you got?
I'm going to go the Mets.
Wow.
I think they've strengthened in the areas they really did need to strengthen, and of course, as I just said, the pitching staff is fantastic. I know the Nats pitching staff is pretty good with the likes of Scherzer and Strasburg leading the way, and picking up Patrick Corbin as well. But yeah, I think the Mets to edge it.
Take it you're going Braves?
Yeah, I gotta go Braves. I wouldn't be a good Braves fan if I didn't.
I feel I have to then buy into the hype. I'll go Phillies. So between the three of us, we're saying I think it's really a 3-horse race. Maybe Nats just off.
I think
a little.
I feel the Nats are also right in there. I think it's the most competitive the division's been in a while, because it used to just be Nats and Mets out in front, and the last year completely switched with the Phillies and Braves, and now they've kind of all come up to the same level.
One final point on the National League East. Would we say it's the best division, toughest division in baseball now?
I don't know best, but definitely most parity, very
Probably,
close.
Most even, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the Mets really not the Mets, the Marlins really bring down that parity number. It's arguably the worst team in baseball this year. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
All right, let's turn our attention to the American League East. So for so long, traditionally has been the best division in all of baseball. The Boston Red Sox, one of the greatest teams in history of the sport last year. It was a phenomenal run that they went on all the way to ultimately winning the World Series. We know that the Yankees are going to be there. Baltimore's in a rebuilding phase. Can't imagine them being overly competitive, and I can't imagine Toronto being overly competitive. Tampa Bay was the kind of weird one. Everyone expected them.
They were very much the
statistical
statistical darling. They went all out on advanced stats. They brought in they went very much the Moneyball approach.
Openers?
Yeah, they had the openers. So that was interesting. I mean, my team, the Braves, some interesting acquisitions, to say the least. It kind of seems that they're trying to compete this year, but half-assing it.
Blue Jays, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, what did I say?
Braves.
Too much baseball.
Yeah. How many teams you got over there?
But for me, they picked up a lot of veteran starting pitching, which is interesting this year. And then they went with the Rule 5 pick with a guy who has not pitched above rookie ball ever, which is another interesting one. That's a lot of jumping him up on quite a few levels.
Do we all agree it's a Yankees Red Sox battle in this division?
Yeah,
I think so.
Even as a hardcore Blue Jays fan, I feel fairly confident saying.
I do have a question for Mr. Blue Jays over here. When are we going to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
Probably late April 25th. That was when Ronald Acuna came up last year. So, great to see him come up. It was great to see him in spring training last year. He's been equally as good in spring training this year. Another big name is Bo Bichette. He's been great in spring training. Had a home run the other day. So he's another guy, probably a little later than April. It'd be if he does come up at all. So he'd be a great guy to solidify that middle infield. Arguably, the Blue Jays have decent position spots all filled up. They've got some decent young outfield pieces. They're kind of growing into it with Grichuk and then Pilar in center field. It's just really pitching. They've got Stroman, who's had an interesting offseason, to say the least. Been kind of everywhere with comments and contract talks and what's all going on. Sanchez is one of the best pitchers in baseball if he can not have a blister on his finger, which he seems to have every other week. So it's really those two are your only young pieces that are at an MLB level. So there's not much in the farm in terms of starting pitching, and that's, I think, a big area of concern.
Right, Mr. McDonald, tell us why the Yankees are going to win the World Series this year. Well, at least the American League East.
Well, home runs.
Man, they're not going to be short of home runs, are they? That's
Aaron Judge has come out yesterday and said they're going to break the record for home runs. And I mean, he missed 6 weeks of the season last year, and they still broke their home run record for the Yankees. So, yeah, lots of power in the side. They've made some interesting acquisitions, especially Adam Ottavino in the bullpen. Had a great year last year with the Colorado Rockies. They've also picked up DJ LeMahieu from the Colorado Rockies. Very, very versatile player, good veteran presence. He's going to help along the likes of Gleyber Torres and some of the other younger players in the side, like Miguel Andujar. And I'm hoping that Clint Frazier will get a good run this year. He missed out the back half of last year with his issues. The starting pitching, I think, could possibly be the weakness on the Yankees.
I don't think so. I really like what they did with the starting pitching, getting James Paxton, J.A. Happ, and they brought back CC Sabathia. That one's a little thought to see what happens there.
Comparing it to the Red Sox, though, with what the Red Sox are willing out in that rotation.
It is a good rotation, but I think if they lose one, maybe two of them, then they're in trouble.
Yeah.
You got James Paxton, Severino, it's that top end talent, and then J. Happ's always been a really good middle order guy, but definitely not an ace by any ace. And then it's really how healthy and how old is CC Sabathia? How is he feeling?
All right, let's talk about the Red Sox. We can't talk about this division without talking about the Red Sox. Are they as good as they were last year? Are they better? Are they worse?
I mean,
exactly the same.
Yeah, they're about the same.
Look, I'll rephrase. Did they overachieve last year? Are we expecting that record to just come back to closer to?
No, I wouldn't say they overachieved. I think it was pretty representative of how good they were last year.
The thing about the Red Sox last year is they weren't flash. They just did everything well.
Which is nice.
Good fundamental baseball. And yeah, there were no what you would call real superstars in that lineup.
Yeah, got pretty good.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he's not a bad player. I'm saying every player in that side did what they had to do and played very well. Yeah, if Mookie Betts was in, say, another team in the competition, he would have been labelled a superstar. But because he performed well, JD Martinez performed well, everybody else performed well, including some of the lesser lights in that side.
I think Nathan Eovaldi was a really big point coming in the postseason run and just late in the season. He was great, and they were able to bring him back, making a lot more money this year. It's a great year for him going to free agency, but he did come back to the Red Sox. They also brought back Steve Pearce, who was traded to them from the Blue Jays, who was amazing in the playoffs.
World Series MVP.
Good,
I think
South Carolina boy.
The biggest question around them at the moment is going to be who's going to be their closer, because Craig Kimbrell is still on the market. And
come on, Braves, you can do it.
Well, he came from there.
Bring him home.
I don't know whether it's just going to take a long time for him to go back there or
Joe Kelly's a little dodgy in that bullpen. I don't see him as a out-and-out closer.
All right, we better give some predictions. Who have you got to win the American League East?
It's a tough one between the Yankees and Red Sox. I'm going to say Red Sox just because how good they were last year, and I don't think they subtracted at all, like literally at all. And I think Mookie Betts is, again, just a rising superstar. I think he's going to be even better. He's arguably the second best player in baseball already. And I think he can really improve that outfield even more with JD Martinez. Outfielder JD Martinez. I think they've got a really good shot.
I think I know what you're going to say, but who are you tipping?
I am going to say the Yankees, but I still think they need to strengthen up that starting rotation.
Mm-hmm. I think the Yankees, the whole softball slump thing from the rookies will come down to how those guys respond this year. If they don't have the sophomore slump, I actually lean towards the Yankees too. I think there's just so much offense in that lineup. It's going to be a fascinating battle. I think both teams will be right there. Both teams will be playoff contenders again, but I'm actually leaning towards the Yankees this year as well. And I actually wouldn't rule out the Tampa Bay Rays for making a sneaky run at
wild card,
and being in the mix the last couple of weeks of the season.
They've done a great job with that team with limited budget. I wish the Blue Jays could do a similar thing, but they it's an interesting front office Blue Jays have, so I don't think they're really as analytics based, but yeah, really good job by Tampa Bay for what
And the
they've got.
signing I couldn't remember last week, Charlie Morton was the pitcher
Charlie
that
Morton.
was signed by the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, he won the World Series with the Astros a couple of years ago.
They've got a few former Pittsburgh players there too, don't they?
They do,
Right, well that completes our preview of the American League East and the National League East. We'll get into some of the other divisions in coming weeks. That's all we've got time for on the podcast today. You'll be able to follow this podcast every week, and we'll be into National Club Championships this time next week. We'll have our first club champion already announced this time next week. Thanks for your time.